Hi there friends, this video is about how to say no. Now I thought this would be mostly aimed at the level of junior group leader, for example, but I think this is applicable to all career stages from doctoral student up, because normally we are all going to be asked in the professional context to do more than we can actually accomplish. So first of all, being invited to many things is of course also nice, because it would be far more terrible to have no opportunities at all. But if you are invited to too many opportunities, you can't possibly say yes to all of them. Because if you did, then you can't do a good job on most of them. That means people will be mad at you because you don't deliver, or you will be unhappy with yourself because you couldn't do a good job, and therefore that leads to anxiety, and in the end also to burnout. So you will have to say no to a lot of opportunities. Now, of course, it is a tricky thing to decide when to say no, but let's say you have decided to say no to some of the opportunities. Now, if you are like most people, including myself, saying no is not something that comes very easy to people, because of course you're disappointing the person or the entity that asks you to do something. And so this is why we don't like to say no. We rather like to say yes. But as discussed, you need to say no to some of those opportunities. So the question then becomes, how do you do that? So how do you say no in a professional, polite, but also definitive way? And there's a couple of points I'd like to share with you from my experience. Well, the worst way to deal with an opportunity that you don't want to do or that you have to decline is to not respond at all. I mean, sometimes this does happen, and unfortunately it also happens to me inadvertently, because there's too many emails, for example, coming, but that should be the worst way to deal with an invitation, to simply not respond. So you should avoid not responding. You should respond, but then you should respond in a certain way. The first point in your response is show appreciation that you are being asked. I mean, that somebody thought of you for some opportunity, some collaboration, some participation in a grant or membership in a committee or whatever it is. That is nice. And so the first part of your response should always be appreciative. You should say, thank you for thinking of me for this opportunity. And I think that is very important, and unfortunately too often we forget to do that. So don't forget to thank people. The second point is you give a bit of a reason for why you decline, but don't go into a lot of detail. You know, like standard reasons that are generally appreciated as good reasons for declining an opportunity is you simply don't have time because you have already committed to other opportunities, and therefore you think you will not be able to do a good job on this new opportunity. Or perhaps this is something that is outside of your core expertise. This is very important for me. For example, if I'm asked to do something that I feel like this is not my expertise, it would mean that I would have to do additional work to bring myself up to speed on a certain topic. And then this is usually costing me too much time, and then I would decline for that reason. So I would say, I'm sorry, I can do that because this is not my core area of expertise. Or another reason is, I'm sorry, I can't do that because we have no longer been doing research in this area. This often happens when you have publications on a certain topic. Somebody wants you to contribute to a research project or something on that topic. But actually, in the meantime, you've moved on and you're no longer working on that. And that is also a good reason to state that you cannot do that. Whatever you say, you should make that conclusive. So don't leave a door open if you have already decided that you don't want to do this. I mean, if you are not sure if you want to do that, and if there are some additional pieces of information that you need in order to make an informed decision, by all means ask. But if you have decided you can't do that, you won't do that, then be very definitive about it, because otherwise you get this back and forth, and that's just irritating to all parties, because you have basically already decided you can't do that and you won't do it. So give a reason. Don't be very detailed about this reason so that people don't understand it as an invitation to argue with you. Just give a general reason that makes sense, and then be definitive in your statement and basically say, therefore, I regret I cannot do that. The third point is don't criticize or be negative about the offer. Like, or this is not a very important committee, I don't have time for that, or yeah, this is not an interesting topic for me to collaborate on or something. Don't say that, because that is negative, puts the other person down. So just give these general reasons, like I don't have time for this right now, this is not my core area of expertise, right? This is completely different. If you say this is not my core area of expertise, it transports a completely different message than if you say, this is not interesting to me, right? If this is not interesting to you, say it in a different way. So I think that is very important, to not become negative about the offer itself, be appreciative of the offer, but then say you can't do it for some of these reasons that I just gave you. The fourth point is, very often you don't want to close the door forever. So it is very good if you can say, for example, well, thank you for asking me. I cannot do this right now because of my other commitments. And if you feel that way, don't say that if you don't, but if you feel that way, say like, maybe there will be other opportunities to work on this topic together in the future. So that means you're declining in a very definitive way now because of the situation and the other commitments that you have, but you do leave the door open for the future. And I think that is a very nice thing to do, because maybe you will come back to this offer at another time when you don't have these other commitments, let's say. But again, only really do that when you mean it. If you, for example, do not, for whatever reason, want to work with a certain person, then don't say that, because then this person will come back to you and ask you every time. And if you simply don't want to work with this person for whatever reason, it's completely legitimate, then you have to continue to say no to that person. And so just avoid that. So basically, then don't leave the door open and don't add that additional sentence, but maybe in the future we can work on this together. Then just omit this sentence. Still don't be negative about the offer, right? This still stands, but then don't leave the door open. Generally, though, it is very good to leave the door open if you can. Now, what is optional, and I generally don't do that, but if they, for example, ask you to be a member of a committee and you can't do it for whatever reason, or you won't do it, then you could refer them to other people. I generally don't do that because it sort of presumes that they have not thought of these other people already when they asked me. So I generally don't do that. But if you think that there is really an obvious other candidate that they could consider, you might do that. As I said, this is maybe more a matter of personal preference, and it's completely optional. But it shows that you have a real interest in being helpful. So I think that would be one argument in favor of doing this. As I said, generally speaking, I don't then recommend other people, especially if I haven't asked them, right? Because maybe they also don't want to be asked. So this is also the risk. Now, what I've discussed so far is all for the situation where you're being asked by a colleague that is not also a friend of yours. I mean, if you're being asked by somebody who is a professional colleague, but also a friend because you've known them for a long time or whatever, then of course you can be much more candid in your response if you trust them. I mean, you're still being polite. You still say, well, thanks for asking me, and this is a really great honor, and I'm glad you thought of me. However, I really can't do it for this and this reason. And then you may be, in this situation, it may be more the case where you can suggest somebody else. Like, for example, have you thought of person A or person B? They would also be good. Or give me a call if you would like other suggestions. So then, there's ways of being much more sort of friendly if you know somebody. I think that is pretty clear. Most of the time, these requests are going to be from people that are just work colleagues, not necessarily friends. And then everything above applies. But of course, if this is this is an opportunity being offered to you by a close friend, you can be more direct in how you respond. Yeah, and one thing that you can do maybe is also you could offer to say, like, I could really introduce you to person A because I think they would be great in that. That you would only do for somebody that you know real well and not for just any old colleague. Yeah, this is it. These are my points for you to consider if you need and want to say no, but you want to say no in a polite, professional, but also definitive way. So good luck with saying no. Bye. See ya.